Can I just make sure I got the right gentleman? Can you tell me your birthday, please?
Yeah. 24th of the 5th in 1991.
Thanks, mate. I'll just go through the safety questions again. Do you have a pacemaker?
No.
Have you ever had a heart operation?
No.
Have you ever had metal go into your eyes by accident from welding or grinding?
No.
Samuel has never asked, why has this happened to me? He's never complained. He takes it in his stride and he's very stoic.
Do you have any hearing aids?
No.
Cochlear implants? Do you have any false teeth?
No.
No dentures, nothing you pull out before you go to bed?
When Samuel first got sick, I was at pains to keep it out of the papers. But Samuel's 18 years old now, so it's his story to tell. This is not my story. I'm incidental cast of characters.
Do you have any artificial knees or elbows? Any joint replacement surgery?
Been fun, but...
I did feel that he might well be misrepresented and treated in a rather tabloid way. If you're going to tell this story, it should be told properly. There was no good could come of him being, you know, poor little celebrity weepy boy.
I'm just going to get my colleague to check that.
To tell you the truth, I'm not fully aware of how my mum and dad met. I believe it was at a nightclub. Dad was in a band called the Skyhooks. They're very big here in Australia.
Elly is very beautiful. She's smart. She's very determined. These are the qualities, I suppose, that drew me to her.
Samuel arrived at 7:18 p.m. on Saturday night, just in time for the Red Faces segment, which his father wasn't there to host.
I can remember the first things I ever said to him, actually. We were up at the top of the hospital, looking out over the city of Melbourne, and I said, "Look, Samuel, I'm showing you the world." It turned out to be a somewhat different world than any of us could have expected.
When Samuel was 6 weeks old, Red and Elly moved house. It was a nice home. It was a very quaint and charming home.
And this house was next to this small sub-power station. There was a thin wall between that and my bedroom.
Cheeky boy. Samuel's cot, and later on his bed, was up against the wall of the common wall from our house to the substation. When Samuel turned 1, we were so besotted with him that we decided that we should have another child. So 9 months later, Raphael came along.
Shall I get some more food? Shall I get some more food, Sammy?
Yeah, what do you think?
Our life was so normal with these two little bouncing, healthy boys that not in a million years could I have ever imagined what our life was going to become. One day when Samuel was 4, he went off to kindergarten as usual. The phone rang at 4 o'clock. It was the creche, and they said that Samuel wasn't well.
We went and picked him up from the creche and he was sleepy, you know, lacklustre, listless.
I just knew that it wasn't a small thing.
As always, I said, "Oh, look, I'm sure it's nothing, he'll be fine." And Elly said, "Oh, we should take him to the doctor."
So we went in the ambulance. By this stage, Samuel's symptoms were really that he just couldn't open his eyes very well. He had what he described was a very, very bad headache.
I suspect it may be the case that if he were to die, that's when it would have happened.
The neurosurgeon told us that Samuel had had a massive brain hemorrhage and that he would probably be a paraplegic.
It was the first most awful moment of my life. I can remember calling my father in tears and saying, "He has to have brain surgery. He's 4 years old." Just that. It's still too awful to contemplate, so I don't.
When we got the biopsy results back, it was called a grade 4 glioma, which is one of the most aggressive tumours with a very poor prognosis.
This type of tumour that Samuel had actually grows from the brain tissue itself. It is part of the brain. It's not a separate entity. So if you're going to remove even a portion of this tumour, you are removing portion of the brain.
Like them in a tree.
Without treatment, he would not have lived more than a few weeks, in my opinion.
That's the colour the egg should be.
After a month of surgery and chemotherapy, it was still improbable that he should live.
I do not like green eggs and I do not like them.
Same on it.
One doctor in particular told us that we should take him home and enjoy him. And it was pretty clear what she meant by that. But I didn't believe her. I didn't believe that that was what was going to happen to my son. I was determined that was not going to happen to my son. We decided we really needed to find out more about cancer, because that's what our son had.
We went to see everybody. We went to all the experts, amongst them Ian Gawler.
Red and Elly explained that they lived right up against a major suburban substation, and this little fellow's sleeping right up against that wall.
And he looked at us in horror and said, "You need to get away from that house."
When you get concentrated areas of electrical activity, like with a substation, that activity produces electromagnetic radiation. And the thought is that because of the nature of that radiation, it can interfere with human cells. Now, how significant that interference is the big question.
Anecdotally, I think there is evidence to say that electromagnetic radiation causes cancers.
You cannot prove, there is no study that will show that causes cancer, and I don't know that I believe that it causes cancer, but we moved the next day because we could.
It's frightening for me to think that we put our child in this situation, unknowingly. I really don't like to think about it because it makes me feel awful.
Oh, look at that. Isn't he nice? Look at
Samuel's special helmet.
After surgery, after chemotherapy, the thing hasn't gone away. It's actually gotten bigger and gone there, and there. It's all there on the scan.
Okay, just popping it up.
So we had to have the radiation. We didn't have any time to wait.
No, just rest like that for a couple of minutes.
They don't like doing radiation treatment under the age of 6.
The area that gets treated really stops growing and developing, or the amount of growth and development that occurs is much less than normal. And that's both in terms of height, in terms of bone development, but also in terms of brain development.
I think Daddy's the best man.
Because of the effect of the radiation, I would have thought perhaps, as far as mental function is concerned, Samuel would have been able to go to primary school. He may have been able to start secondary school, but I would have thought his chances of completing secondary school would be remote.
Aren't you good?
He could possibly be employable in a semi-skilled or unskilled situation.
Very good, Samuel.
But I would have expected that overall potential in both the areas of education, future employability would be substantially lessened.
I contemplated the notion that perhaps we should let him go, was the expression. I guess I sort of meant we should let go as much as let him go. Just, maybe he will survive this. Maybe he will die. Maybe that is a better option than performing this treatment. Wouldn't have acted on it, didn't act on it, but I wondered.
The effects of the radiation treatment were pretty ghastly on the inside of the brain. It's frying brain cells and damaging them. On the surface of the skin, he was burnt. His ears were so burnt that they were swollen.
About that time, here's the paradox. I'm doing a comedy show, and I'm the brutal guy. There was a young guy came on, 6, 7, 9, whatever, and he did his act for Red Faces, and by proxy, he became my child for a moment. And I can remember doing something completely out of character and telling him how good he was and and wishing him a long life or something. It was not easy to do a comedy show when your child is at death's door.
I'd like to thank all of you. Everyone here today has helped us immensely over the last year.
Samuel's 5th birthday was incredible because Elly spoke and just, once again, explained why it was so special that he made the birthday of 5. He shouldn't be in that position. Kids shouldn't be in that position. Nobody ever takes Samuel's birthday for granted.
Joel was born when Samuel was 7. So when he had that tumour, the second tumour that just blew us all away, I had a 9-month-old on my hip. When we were back there again, I thought, no, we've got a new baby now. This is with, we've got 3 children. No, we're having this life now. Well, I'm not going back there to that. You're not telling me we're not doing tumours anymore. That was hard.
We think it's caused by the radiation, and we do know that once people have had one meningioma, they're at increased risk of getting another one.
The oncologist wasn't positive. They decided to take it out, and it was a benign meningioma, quite unrelated to the first tumour. We were told just to get back to our normal life, so Samuel went back to school.
Lots of the kids at primary school didn't actually know that I had a brain tumour. They would have known that I was missing school because I just wasn't there.
Here we were at the hospital, and unbeknownst to us, he had thyroid cancer that one part of the hospital knew about, but didn't bother to tell the treating doctors or the patient. It's not like it's a medical mistake where they misread the scan or they didn't diagnose something properly. It's clearly visible on the scan and reported on and diagnosed and written into a report. And then, and this is why I'm absolutely flabbergasted, and then it was put into a filing cabinet and closed.
I don't think that really is acceptable. I think that it would reflect some failure in the system.
At the end of year 10, he was due to have another MRI scan on his brain. There was another brain tumour. It was detected and reported on, but it wasn't actually communicated to the doctors or to us for 6 months. It was found inadvertently by a different doctor who was looking at results for different tests. I was asked if I'd known about that brain tumour. I said that it was news to me, and I was in complete shock.
Warming up.
As it turns out, it was a benign and small tumour, but if it was a more serious tumour, the consequences could have been absolutely horrendous. Because this was the second time, I completely lost confidence. So the next day I rang the hospital and I told them that we were taking Samuel, who was by this stage 16 and a half, we were taking him to an adult hospital.
Where are we
setting? Do you know what total setting is?
19, I think.
Samuel has a very powerful story to tell, and I'll let him do so. Samuel?
It's funny seeing Samuel on those rare occasions when he has publicly spoken about what he's been through, because in an odd sort of way, it's a revelation to me too. I'm not sure what he thinks about it all, or whether it's something he doesn't think about, but rather he has simply lived through and feels.
You can't change what's happening inside you with cancer. You can't fix that. So what you need to do is try and fix everything else around you. Like, for instance, you've got to make sure you have a good bed, good food, you know, all the right drugs, you know, morphine, you know, top of the range.
I'm as fascinated as anybody else. In a way, we don't talk about it because that's not what we're doing. We're not talking about death, we're living.
I have had about 80 MRI scans.
Good heavens.
I know it sounds funny, but I just focus on anything I can see. Even if it's a made in China logo, I can make that last for an hour and a half.
I couldn't cope with this at all. It just astounds me that he manages these confined spaces like that.
Elly is very much the sort of person, given half a chance, she'd don the gown and she'd be passing scalpels.
Are you doing your homework in your head?
I don't have any homework.
That's her need. I don't have the same need to be in control of the situation.
I personally haven't seen my mum upset about me because she obviously does it when I'm either in surgery or when I'm not with her. I think she's really scared that if I see her like that I'll cry too or I'll become emotional about it. But I find that I don't necessarily have that much of an emotional attachment to it because I sort of try to detach myself from it because I want to not let it interfere with my actual life.
I just wish I could trade places with him so he doesn't have to go through it all the time. I'd love to swap.
My impression of Elly all the way through is that by refusing to accept that he was definitely going to be damaged, she's kept the doors open for him to achieve.
Sam, it's your go, by the way.
Are you serious?
Yep. Probably should have seen that.
Elly's done a really terrific job in pushing him to use his brain.
I'm going to do that instead.
Okay.
Obviously, to be chess captain, clearly his brain will run rings around mine playing chess. That means that he's got the ability to strategise and to plan and a memory of what's happened before. So clearly his brain is working very well.
Nice check, mate. What's up? Game, Samuel.
Game, Harry.
Thank you.
Hello. Cup of tea? Beer? Whiskey?
Maybe.
Samuel and Joel, the closeness of their relationship is a combination of Samuel's nurturing instincts, maybe that comes out of his illness, a compassion, and also a chance for Samuel to escape what has turned out to be a very serious life.
When Samuel's a bit older, he's gonna not have cancer anymore or brain tumours. They'll probably find a cure in the future. I do know that cancer is not contagious, and that helps a lot. That makes me not scared.
Well, listen, you all booed when I hit the goal. What would you give them? Give me a number.
Samuel is not even a bit angry, nothing. He's happy. He's always got a smile on his face.
I was going to do that.
Cancer, it's going to be hounding at him his whole life, which is a burden for him. You know, he can handle that.
So I've gotten to the stage now where I think there's been something wrong with every part of my body. I haven't broken an arm yet, so I'm working on that, but I'm getting there.
When Samuel has an operation, it's like getting the car serviced. We have determined some more than a decade ago that Samuel is not going to die. We just keep going.
We're never, ever going to see you again on television.
As Samuel finishes year 12, it's hard not to reflect on what a fantastic achievement that is.
For me, year 12 wasn't as daunting as it loomed for lots of other people. I was much more relaxed about it.
I guess he's got a kind of perspective that very few people have, which is, what, you've got exams? I've got cancer.
So in some way she's embracing what's coming in terms of Mitch. Yeah, how's lunch been at past?
It's not like she's trying to avoid, but she's trying to find a new life and and forget past memories.
Right.
Even at this stage in year 12, I still have thyroid cancer and I still have a brain tumour in my head, which, you know, is a little bit off-putting. It's like one of those circular novels where you think you're getting to the end of a chapter or at the end of the book and it's still as inconclusive and as circular as it was at the start of the book. Because she's found this new reality, she sort of doesn't need to use that as an excuse for her problems, whereas Blanche does. I used to think, you know, what would it have been like if I hadn't had any of the surgery or any of the cancer or anything, but then what's the point of thinking about the past when you can just think about now?
That's a typical. This is how he spends the day. He watches movies all day. And people say to me, "Oh, he works so hard, doesn't he?" And I say, "Yes."
My parents are very different, really. Dad's this sort of more eccentric person who he just does what he feels like, really. Mum's this very organised person who likes everything to be so-and-so, and I thank her for that.
Today's the day before the English exam. It's pretty exciting. We've waited a long time for this.
I'm going about it by being detached because it's his life that he has to lead. If he were to ask me a question, of course, I would tell him what I knew. But it's very much that point in one's life where you have to sort it out for yourself, I figure.
Mum suggested at the start of the week I start making a plan for every day and try to get in 10 hours minimum, which I said was quite barbaric.
Sometimes if I close my eyes and imagine I'm in that room when he was 4 years old and I'm being told that A, he wouldn't live, and B, if he did, he would be severely brain damaged. And that was it. That was what to expect. So to be here now, ready to sit these exams, is a dream come true.
My eldest son is doing VCE. This is his first exam. So I'm a first-time VCE parent, and I'm relaxed. What's the worst thing that could happen? My wife is a little more twitchy than I am.
I'm not nervous about the situation, but Samuel, he does suffer from fatigue, chronic fatigue due to the radiation. So to concentrate for any length of time is just a very exhausting thing.
Samuel's process through school's been remarkable, seeing how he's been able to heap up and, in fact, be ahead of his class. To look at him, to meet him, you'd never know that he'd had this treatment.
Fine. So you just got to be confident and then do it.
And you didn't get tired?
No, not at all.
Tablets and...
Yes, I did.
Did you raise your hand and have your rest breaks? And...
No, you don't raise your hand, you've got to stand up.
Oh, you've got to stand up?
Yep. And wait there while everyone looks at you because they're all laughing.
Far out, they're laughing at you.
I wish to begin our 2009 ceremony prize giving with a very warm welcome to the Year 12 students.
Samuel Symons.
Cancer itself has given me the determination to do things in life and understand other people.
I find it hard to believe, but I'm gratified that he's achieved so much. What I thought was the outlook so many years ago, I've been proven wrong. I'm happy that I've been proven wrong.
When most kids were going on school holidays, he would undergo another procedure. I think Samuel understands the wonderful fact of existence.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Samuel. Happy birthday to you.
I want to thank everyone for coming here today to support my 18th birthday. I've had lots of fun being with my friends. That's all of you. And I really like just living, because I really find it's just much more fun in life to go through it, just being happy. Because if you're just not happy, you're just not going to live. I think after being so close to death that I could give it a little peck on the cheek. Even then, I don't tend to think about it, or never have really thought about it so much, because I was too busy trying to stay alive and keep living, that I really just didn't care about death, and never have, and never will. I'm proud of what I've been able to do here because, you know, more than anything, I went through the system where this stuff didn't exist.
Samuel said to me that he always lived his life in a way to make other people happy. And I think that is really something that we should all be striving for, and that's what we will be doing as his family.
I've given up on world domination. I think world peace is probably much easier. We'll find out.